So with the Pixel 7 event come and gone, there was one thing that was rather obviously not mentioned, and that is Google's upcoming foldable device, the Pixel Foldable of our dreams that we've all been waiting to get, the Pixel Notepad. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is the Pixel Notepad. What do we know about it? Where is it? Why did they not show it? Let's jump into those details now. And to aid me with that, I have organized things into a Twitter thread. You can follow me on Twitter at ScaryIfLiteral to maybe see some of this stuff ahead of time. The tale of the Pixel Notepad goes back a really long time. We've been hearing about this thing for literally years at this point. Initial leaks actually said we might be getting this thing released in fall of 2021. Well, obviously it is now fall of 2022. That has not happened. And more recent leaks are indicating a Q1 of 2023 release. And we have some good reason to think that may be the case. So this tweet here from Ross Young. If you don't know Ross Young, 25 years experience in the display industry, CEO of Display Supply Chain Consultants. This guy basically hears things about displays being ordered. When a company like Google wants to make a foldable, they have to order their screens ahead of time. They get manufactured. This guy potentially hears about these orders, and he was asked, where is that Pixel Foldable? He says Q1. And we're going to have more details from Ross as we go forward, but from what he's heard, panels being made, Q1 release, sometime maybe February or March for the Pixel Notepad. Now, this may seem crazy, though, right? Like, it's the boy who cried wolf situation. We keep hearing it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's pushed back. They ordered panels before the order was canceled. And what's true? Well, this does remind me, as I mentioned here, of the Pixel Watch. We heard about this thing for a really long time, and now it is actually coming. So there is reason to remain somewhat hopeful. Another tweet here from Ross says, 4 months till foldable Pixel smartphone starts panel production. I am assuming it will launch in March. So he's heard this. He's reiterated this. Panels are ordered. Production is going to start ramping up very soon. And then we're going to start having these things produced for potentially a Q1 release. Now, there's a lot more, though, right? Some recent stuff to make you maybe feel a little bit better. Not only is Ross very reliable in his information, and the stuff I've reported from him in the past has been very accurate, proven to have been very accurate. Google has also shown us some things. This image here comes from one of the Android 12L betas, and this very clearly shows a foldable device, the design of which is going to be worth mentioning. You look at the shape of that device and you compare it to something like the Z Fold 4, and you will see that it is a shorter, wider, more squared off device. We'll be coming back to that because there's a leak here on Weibo, I believe is the correct pronunciation. It's a Chinese social media website. Digital Chat Station is the leaker here, and they had this to say. The rear of the device will look a bit like the Pixel 7. The front will look a bit like the Find N, but it's going to have a more squared off design on the inner screen. The outer screen has a single hole punch camera for the selfie, but the inner has the selfie in a very small hole in the frame, or perhaps he could mean the bezel, depending on what translation you use. This particular translation says border. I've seen other change it to frame. Hard to say exactly what's going on there. But to add some weight to this, Ross Young had also said that the Z Fold 4 and the Google Foldable would have a similar sized folding display. So the inner display will be about the same size, but that does not talk about aspect ratio. But when he does turn around and say the cover display will be quite a bit smaller, 5.8 inches, that would mean a wider aspect ratio than what Samsung has with their 6.19 or 6.2 inch cover display, right? So this is the same size, but the cover display is only 5.8 inches diagonal. Duh, of course, that means a shorter, wider display. So you should be thinking somewhere in the realm of the Oppo Find N rather than the Z Fold, any of the Z Folds. That's the aspect ratio that several different leaks have now pointed towards. Now, going back here to that leak from Weibo, talked a little bit about this, but we'll kind of give a little bit more information. So with the Z Fold line, what you have is an under display camera. Now mine is showing black there because I don't like the under display camera. It shimmers and it hurts my eyes. So mine is filled with black, but that's how that works here. On prior folds, it was a hole punch, and then on the cover, you have a hole punch selfie camera there as well with this Pixel Notepad. Apparently, a hole punch on the cover is going to be the deal. But on the inside, rather than having something interrupt the display, and rather than going with an under-display camera, what Google is apparently doing is putting the camera somewhere in the bezel. Now, this could be a very small camera from some of the leaks, some of the phrasings that I've heard used here. Ultra micro hole camera on the border is a good indication there that maybe this thing won't have phenomenal camera performance because a very small camera is going to perform less well. But if they're able to have a relatively small border around the outside and have the camera placed there, that might work out well. You may also think about, though, something like Surface Duo that has its camera in the bezel as well. You can make this bezel quite a bit smaller and still have room for that camera in there. So perhaps the Pixel Notepad might have a chin and a forehead, or at least a forehead. Personally, I'll be okay with that because, as I've said before with Duo, that actually gives you something to hold on to as you manipulate the screens, right? You're not touching the screens and accidentally interacting with things as you open and close it, as you move it into different postures, unlike on Z Fold, where you have to kind of rely upon it being able to reject those presses as you are holding the thing, because you know the bezels are pretty small on this thing. It's a big device. You're probably two-handing it, so maybe there's going to be a chin and a forehead there. Kind of hard to say. In terms of the rest of the camera setup, the leaks have evolved over the years. At first, they said, well, maybe it's going to be a bunch of 12 megapixel sensors, the old stuff that they use. Newer leaks are pointing towards maybe a more modern camera setup. It might be, worth just assuming that the Pixel 6 and 7 cameras will be coming along. So a 50 megapixel primary, 12 megapixel ultra wide. And if we're really lucky, maybe we will get that 48 megapixel tele found in the Pro models, although that is going to be something that we're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. In terms of the software, though, more indication that Google's taking tablets very seriously is the work they've done with Android 12L, which is literally meant for tablet devices, dual panel things in the user interface and the settings and the notification shade. And also they've been updating all of their apps to work better on larger screens, to have dual pane. Google Messages is a great example that has a dual pane layout now. Gmail, they're updating stuff all the time to work better on larger screens. So it makes sense for them to produce their own device. Aside from the Pixel tablet, which is apparently still coming, this will all work very well on the Pixel Notepad. Gboard now has a split thumb typing layout, which I think makes more sense on the Notepad than it does on the Pixel tablet. All of that being said, price is going to be a big point because while there's not a lot of competition in the United States for the Z Fold 4, the Z Fold 4 is still a very, very strong, very polished device in its fourth iteration. So Google can't just put out an $1,800 tablet and say, well, it's a Pixel, so it will sell. That's not really been true. And if you look at the 6 and the 7, the Pixel 6 and 7, I should say more specifically, price has been a weapon for them. $599 and $899 for these devices has meant these things have been the best-selling Pixels yet. They want, apparently, to have their Pixel Notepad around the $1,400 mark, which would make it a much better competitor, I would say, to the Z Fold line, who is $400 more expensive. They can produce a Pixel Notepad with Pixel level cameras, all those lovely Pixel features like call screening and the thing where it listens to what song is going on, all these other cool Pixel AI things. And it's $400 cheaper, and it offers a different aspect ratio. So maybe it's more pocketable, maybe it's better in one-handed use. This could be a really, really nice option. So guys, the biggest question now is why wasn't it talked about at this last event? And I think that there are a couple of really obvious reasons. One, they're launching the Pixel 6 or Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro right now. So they don't want to necessarily cannibalize their own sales by showing this foldable, and then people go, well, I'm not going to buy the Pixel 7, then I'm going to wait for this Notepad to come out. So they want to give it room to breathe. Also, the fact that it's probably not going to launch till Q1 of 2023 means why talk about it now and then have all that time to go? Maybe we'll hear about it early on in the year. Maybe we'll see it announced and then launched shortly thereafter. So I think that's probably why we weren't shown it then. Even though they did show the Pixel 7 way early, I don't think they wanted to do that with this foldable device because there was no real worry about the 7 or the 7 Pro cannibalizing Pixel 6 sales because there wasn't going to be that huge of a change. This is an entirely different thing, and those sales potentially could have been cannibalized. So guys, that's pretty much where we're at with the Pixel Notepad. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe on your way out. I will see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friend.